if you're aware of your emotions as a programmer, you're going to do a better job of programming. You know, this model of me, I'm a little machine and I produce programs and the machine's not working very well because I'm sad, because I'm lonely, because I'm angry, because I'm anxious. Okay, that's just the facts of the situation. I'm not as good a programmer when I'm feeling anxious. Now, there's stuff you can do about anxiety as a programmer. Test-driven development is the least side effect free way I know of dealing with anxiety.
I do have a question about sort of test-driven development, particularly around end-to-end testing. And it's sort of a specific question, but one thing that I've seen done with end-to-end testing is it's just pointed at a live environment. One problem with that is that if you do all of the sort of setup and teardown that you need for the test from within the test framework itself, and something breaks in the teardown process, that kind of causes this domino effect of wrongful failures. And then you have to go in and do a bunch of manual cleanup, which is just the worst and kind of takes the automated out of automated testing. And the way around that is to have a test database that you stand up, and then you seed the test database with, whatever data you need for the test, and you kind of just redo that process every time the test runs, which prevents those wrongful failures. But a problem that I've seen with that is that if there's code that's been changed and it's incompatible with the way that you used to do things, people might not be able to access certain things on their account properly. So you have all these legacy issues. So my question is, which of these approaches, if either, is better practice? And how do you get around the problems I mentioned with each? Yeah.
Thank you for the very specific question about test-driven development. So you're getting some instruction in TDD now, is that correct?
Sort of. It's very self-taught.
Okay. So for people who haven't seen it before, usually you write a program and then you write some tests to make sure that the program does what you think it should do. And test-driven development is this stupid idea that we're going to break those two processes apart and we're going to swap them. So I'm going to write a test that I know is going to fail. And then I'm going to program until that test succeeds. And then I'm going to write another test that I know is going to fail. And then I'm going to program until it succeeds, and another test, and another test, and another test, and another test. So it's a backwards, weird programming workflow that shouldn't work, and it does for some people and not for others. And so this was just one of those crazy ideas. If you have a crazy idea, you should try it if it's cheap. No, this is a serious heuristic. People will think you're creative and you're just executing poor judgment. Because if you have a crazy idea and it turns out, and I understand, I'm not supposed to say crazy, but anyway, please, we can have that dialogue later. You have an idea with a small chance of success there. Is that better? I hope so. If it actually works out, then it's going to be really valuable because nobody else is going to think of it. So this TDD was this idea for me. So which tests do you write at which scale? That's the interesting question. So if we look at I'll use my high-tech AV equipment here. If we look at the whole, say there's some transaction and there's this whole call tree. We're going to invoke some URL and that's going to da-da-da-da-da, and there's a million services in here with a million functions and whatever. So we can test at this level. And it gives us a lot of confidence because it's exactly what customers are going to do. Except, let's say, part of this stack is sending money to people. And we don't want to do that for testing purposes. except when we do, which is, I have a whole story. But anyway, so what can we do about this situation? Well, down in here, if we could carve out this part of the call tree and avoid the part that actually launches nuclear missiles or whatever it is, then that would be really good, because we could now test here what goes in here, what comes out of there. So navigating this call tree and thoughtfully choosing where in here you want to live is a powerful skill as a programmer. You say, well, okay, so this is the interface I want to think of. Now I'm going to navigate inside of that. Okay, well, this fetches some data and does some calculations, and it sends it off for this to be computed. Okay, well, I can write tests here that give me a good sense of confidence that all the variations of this code work fine. Now, I might have to write one test carefully that integrates that with whatever happens next over here, but that's okay. I don't have to, there's 6 ways of doing this and there's 8 ways of doing that. And oh no, now I have 48 tests. Don't do that. Have 6 tests for this and 8 tests for that, and then 1 test for the combination of the 2. That reduces the scope of the problem you're talking about. It just sounds overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. You can navigate to where the problem isn't overwhelming, solve as much of it as you can there, and then zoom back out.